early in the morning of October 31st, 2015, a fire ravaged a flat block of the posh but internetless part of Peterborough. Only this laptop and this podcast remained. None of its participants have been seen since.
And welcome to the 5th episode of Critical Twits. We've been trapped in a room by a tiny puppet on a bicycle and have to stay here, according to the tapes that we found, until we've attracted 500 new Twitter followers, or we die.
We're going to be here forever.
Can I just say, who still uses VHS?
That's a really good point. It took us about 30 minutes just to find a videotape player.
Yeah, we could probably be out by now.
My TV doesn't even have an AV lead.
I don't even know what that is.
Whoever's trapped us in here is genius, because we've spent more time trying to get this old device to work than trying to figure out how to escape. He's sussed us out.
Yes, so if you would like us to escape, please find us on Twitter, follow us, tell your friends, make some spam accounts and do the same, because otherwise we're going to have to eat Colin again.
But I've only just grown that leg back.
Well, let's hope it tastes better than the last one did.
In the spirit of Halloween, we're here to talk to you about horror games, be they video games, board games, or tabletop role-playing games. First of all, though, to get us in the mood, Colin, what's the most scared you've ever been by a game?
Scared in a game? Oh, well, this is embarrassing.
It's also slow.
Yes. Well, I'm about to lose the respect of a lot of people that I like.
I thought you were going to say street cred.
Street cred.
No one with street cred says street cred.
No, I'm also about to lose the last of my street cred. It happened to be during Dead Space.
Okay.
I am, and do not use, everyone out there, do not use this as an excuse to hunt me down, but I am terrified of people running full sprint at me before I have time to react.
Yeah, fair enough.
And when in Dead Space, and I'm going to spoil it here, so be warned.
It's 7 years old.
I think it was a very
as
good
we've said
warning.
on pretty much every episode so far, it's old, it's going to get spoiled, get over it.
That's true. But yes,
That was our catchphrase.
when the military
Catch
ship crashes into yours and you get the military googly-eyed monsters, they run full sprint at you, and it terrified me. I did actually drop my controller.
Excellent.
Did it help? Did you manage to drop it on a fire button and shoot them inexplicably, or...
No, I
You just
died
wet
and
yourself
had
on the couch.
I pretty much did just wet
You were
myself.
so scared you died?
Yes, yes.
So anyone, we're planning, hopefully, we're going to go along to Dragon Meet in December, first weekend of December.
I think so.
We went last year, had a whale of a time. There's my street cred gone. We had a great time, and we're hoping to meet some of you people out there, have a chat with you. Please, £10 to anyone who dresses up like a monster from Dead Space and runs full pelt at Colin.
I knew I was going to regret that.
That's money in the bank. Aaron, most scared you've ever been by a game?
Well, mine's a bit more conventional.
Mine's embarrassing. That's
yeah,
what mine is.
mine kind of was as well, to be honest. Playing Amnesia, Dark Descent.
What's that about? I've forgotten.
Oh.
Sorry, that was terrible. Don't let me speak.
Yeah, so...
Sorry.
If anybody
Who
wants
am I
to come to
favourite
Dragon
ones?
Meet and beat Brian over the head till we actually get some amnesia.
I'll forget to pay you. It's a real medical condition, guys. Stop laughing about it.
Yeah, so... so I was playing Amnesia, and I was in... It's not really the sewery section, but it's the flooded bit. Where there's an invisible monster that kind of chases after you and stomps through the water. You can just sort of make traces of if there's wet patches around. And I just managed to escape it, and I can hear it stomping behind me, and I'm panicking slightly because I need to get away somewhere, and I know it's following me and everything else. And that precise moment in time, just as I heard it getting on top of me, and I thought I was just about to get away, my cat decided to jump on me, made me scream like a little girl because I was playing on headphones in a dark room. I woke my wife up, who was sleeping upstairs, who came down panicked, thinking I'd died.
You've never told me that story before.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's not the most scared I've ever been. It's not been in a game, the kind that we usually cover. Not last Halloween, but the Halloween before, I think it was. We went to Thorpe Park and undertook their Blair Witch experience, where the park is closed at night and you're staying in the hotel, got some food, and then at midnight they march you out, walk you round, because do you know Thorpe Park? It's built on an island.
Yeah.
And then on one side is London, and on the other side is some like trees and that. So they marched us round in a circle in the trees, telling us ghost stories and such like. We have flashlights and woolly jumpers and all sorts of things. And then they take you in through sort of the back entrance to the park, try and scare you, and they've got sort of people banging things and someone died on this ride, and they do that sort of thing.
Having been on some of the ones at Thorpe Park, that would surprise me actually.
The ghost of a worker that was crushed under the log flume. Genuinely one of the things.
Really?
That they told us, yeah. Then we were we got put into tents, so like the Blair Witch, we'd yes, go to sleep, we'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and we'll try to contact the ghost of the dead guy. And they banged on the thing, we weren't allowed out of the tents, and sort of playing along. And I mean, I'm quite twitchy and I love horror mazes, like live action horror mazes and things like that. Yeah, I love them. I think they're brilliant. Colin's not allowed in them.
No, I'm banned.
Tell the listeners what happened, Colin.
And this is probably a good reason not to come up and try and frighten me during Dragon Bait. The Saw Maze at Thorpe Park, I believe it was.
Yes,
as well.
yeah, Thorpe Park.
I thought it was going to be a maze. An actual maze, and that during this maze, you get to dead end and you'd get plastic shotguns firing at you, or maybe there'd be a zombie chasing you through, or a tiny man on a bicycle.
Which doesn't sound sinister when you say it like that.
No, but actually sounds quite comical, a tiny man on a bicycle.
I've just noticed that the one in the corner's got stabilisers. I'm nowhere near as scared of it now.
But what it actually was is you go with your party of followers, stand in a conga line, holding one another so that you don't lash out at the actors, and then they guide you through these series of rooms where they jump scare you, which, if I'd known that was what it was going to be, I wouldn't have partaken in the event, because when someone grabbed my shoulder and attempted to scream in my face, I grabbed the guy's wrist and twisted until he stopped screaming. Luckily, Thorpe Park were very nice about it, and I did apologise and did say I shouldn't have come in here, and I'm not banned from Thorpe Park, just the maze.
It's not recommending anything. You managed to cause a man an anti-scream. So he was in the process of screaming at you, and you caused him so much pain, he sucked the scream back into himself. That's impressive.
He had a slightly different scream, more of a get the hell off me,
inaudible to the human ear type.
Yes.
Yeah.
Twist him up like a pretzel until he had no air left inside him. Because, you might be some kind of
master pretzel
Korean
twister?
demigod. Sounds like the plot of a very, very odd horror film. So, that was quite fun. We got the tents banged on. There were people throwing things about and hiding in the trees and shaking things about. And then they chase you through the park. And there's one bit where you run into a shed and it's pitch black. And someone actually was dressed completely in black and was just waiting till everyone got in, and then just started poking people and causing all sorts of mayhem. They chased you all the way back to the hotel. I was a bit scared because I get really into these things, and had a great time. Had a shower, a bit sweaty.
Lovely.
Back at 3 a.m. I've been running around without a warm up, so bad. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Gym etiquette?
Yeah.
Exercise etiquette? No.
I haven't exercised since
I was very lucky that I didn't tweak my hamstrings.
I probably would have passed out and died,
get eaten
to be honest.
by the people in the quite good theatrical makeup. Yeah. All fine. So, get into bed. Now, the hotel at Thorpe Park at the time was made out of shipping crates. So a bit like taking part in Mutant Year Zero. You sleep in a very tiny crate, got a bed on one side, a TV above it, built-in shower, and it's very, very tight. And then was woken up about an hour later by screaming, and then some person, I nearly said something much ruder, kicked the door in and jumped on the bed and screamed in my face. So I'd only just woken up, and it was still part of the experience. It was one of the actors that had been chasing us through the park.
I would have been banned.
Oh my god! I literally screamed. I've never screamed in fear like that in my life ever. Never have since. I was so scared. I threw myself away, and then they just kind of growled at me and then stormed off. And my girlfriend absolutely wet herself laughing at me. I've never really lived it down.
I probably would have.
I'm actually a bit frightened talking about it now. It's still quite a strong, scary memory.
I went to a real seance once out in.
Wow.
What's the? I've completely forgotten the name of it now. We've got a set of woods near here.
Southey Woods?
No, to do with hanging.
Northy Woods.
Oh, fucking people.
Yeah.
Swingy Woods.
It's the Castor Hanglands.
Yeah.
There they go. Woods with hanging in Castor Hanglands, yeah. So, went to the Castor Hanglands to try and contact some of the dead people that supposedly hung themselves there.
Castor Hanglands sounds like a bad guy in a H.P. Lovecraft story.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
The Curse of Castor Hanglands. By Brian Ennis, my story.
What would have made it far more interesting than it actually was, because real seances are really dull. I went with a friend. It thought it'd be, vaguely scary because it was on Halloween.
How old were you?
This was only about 4 years ago.
Okay.
So 47.
Add a zero on that.
He is eternal. He is darkness. All hail Baphomet.
But terrified of seances.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so we started seance, and they had 2 of them because, they needed to double the power for... I don't know. They gave us some bullshit reason I never really understood. All I noticed is that...
Goes to like batteries, perhaps?
Could be. That might be why they told us all to turn the flashlights off in case, so they try to steal the battery power from them. And I've got fairly decent night vision because I spend most of my time in the dark because I'm a geek. And I noticed that the lady of the group had kind of walked around to the back to investigate things, and she proceeded to prod me in the back. I said, "Oh, can people feel this? I think there might be a poltergeist here." And I turned around to her and went, "No, she prodded people in the back. Fuck off." And everything was a little bit off after that. They called me up at the... we're supposed to put our hands on a cup for the Ouija board stuff things. Like, can anybody feel the emotion? I'm trying to channel the ghost's emotions into you. What can you feel? Tell us what you feel. And I went, cold, bored. They went, oh. And everything kind of fizzled out and left after that.
And this method of Aaron really committing to the make-believe of the moment is why he's such a great roleplay partner. Not partner. No, roleplay partner is different, isn't it? Roleplay...
And it might resort to that if we're trapped in here for long enough, though, Brian, I'm afraid.
It's good.
Is that before or after you eat me?
After, because I'd need the energy back, I would say.
Okay, that's fine.
I prefer an audience, and I don't think that really counts as much of an audience.
I genuinely don't like the term this podcast is and feel slightly frightened. I'm hoping this is just a cunning conceit to inject horror into the situation, Aaron. Stop licking your lips. Yes, so that's the most scared I ever was by a game, was someone kicking my door in at 4 o'clock in the morning. Probably should have read the terms and conditions.
I think that wins.
What if I'd been on the toilet?
You would have been in the right place.
Yes, very true.
I didn't soil the bed.
Your girlfriend definitely wouldn't have let that down.
Shortly after that she took up martial arts. Maybe I disappointed her to the point where she realised she needed to look after herself.
Even though she just realised that she could just beat you up.
In a roundabout way, I've been inspiring feminist action. So, horror gaming. We're going to talk about board games, we're going to talk about role-play games, we're going to talk about video games. Which do you think is the best medium for horror?
I'll tell you what isn't. Let's narrow it down. Board games.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever been frightened by a board game?
No.
No.
There's...
I've very rarely felt tense in the sense of horror tense.
It's
tense playing a game,
but not like in the same way horror makes you feel tense. If that makes
you can feel tense in the same
like
way that I could win this, or I'm about to lose this.
Yeah.
But that's not horror. That's just
it's like that kind of.
The most scared I've been playing a board game is when I thought your friend was going to hit me at Christmas when we were playing the Resistance.
Yeah.
But
there's no board game really inspires that kind of I will kill you attitude from other players, or the game itself.
To be scared when you're holding cards or rolling dice, or you've got your friend sitting opposite you with a can of energy drink laughing at a joke.
I thought of a game that has scared me. Admittedly, I was a child.
Ooh.
Pop-Up Pirate. That game was scary as shit. You never knew when the fucker was going to jump out of you. And it hit you in the face. So there was actual visceral action to it, and that used to scare me as a child. But I didn't like Jack in the Boxes either for the same reason. There you go. It's a board game that scares you, but it's rubbish. So it doesn't count.
There you go, kids. If you want to get scared nowadays with board games, go buy Pop-Up Pirate.
Just paint a scary face on it and you're sorted.
Done.
So welcome to our Pop-Up Pirate special, where we're going to talk about the history of Pop-Up Pirate and the cultural significance of Pop-Up Pirate, what it's really about underneath its external trappings.
Are
its
pirates
themes.
universal? Do you think other countries have Pop-Up Pirate, or do you think they have Pop-Up other things?
Probably not landlocked countries.
Was it a bit like when we were in Tesco's and we saw the Frankenstein surgery game? So they got like Pop-Up Pirate, but it becomes Pop-Up Ballerina or Pop-Up something else. Pop-Up Fireman or something weird.
Pop-Up Government Inspector! Yeah, you've been caught!
Now that sounds terrifying.
Yes. Yeah.
And if this is the government
jail.
listening, you don't need to send an inspector. It's fine.
Yes. So let's. We don't think it's board games. What about role-playing games? Have any of you been scared playing a role-play game? Colin just winced.
Yes. Yes, I
Because
have.
you are sitting around a table with some dice and bits of paper, drinking energy drinks opposite your friends, but it's a much more immersive situation.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You're in character. You're in the zone, if you like.
Deep method role-playing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, your mindset's trying to mimic what a person would be feeling at that particular point in time.
You're
so,
playing
yeah.
somebody else in a situation which is quite horrific. And it was.
After your revelations when we discussed Mutant Year Zero, I'm seeing you, Colin, as being the Daniel Day-Lewis of tabletop role-playing. I mean, you smoke now, like No How did. You've got the Cockney accent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realise that, but it's all just apples and pears and call blimey governor when I listen back to you.
Well,
He has been talking about fixing a lot of things around the house since he started playing Mutant, which is what his character does a lot.
Yes.
I have actually been fixing things.
Although I'm the only one of us that's lived in a shipping crate.
Good point. I feel let down.
Yeah.
I will be back in a few years.
So, what scared you in role-playing games?
Should we talk about the game first?
We could go into talking. Are we going to talk about Call of Cthulhu then?
Yes.
Which is on our list of things to talk about.
And then go into the story?
Yes. So, for those that aren't familiar with Call of Cthulhu, it's a tabletop role-playing game originally designed to help you role-play scenarios, adventures in the style of the mythos of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
So, horror featuring quite a lot of investigation, very brutal action,
Yes.
and the slow descent into madness. As the more that your character knows, the more susceptible they become to the forces of what's really going on in the world.
Yeah.
Which is my favourite thing about Call of Cthulhu. You have a statistic called mythos, or mythos knowledge.
I think it's just
No, it's Cthulhu Mythos, isn't it?
Yes,
Just
Cthulhu Mythos.
Sorry. So Cthulhu Mythos starts at 0 and goes up to 100. However, your maximum sanity, so you roll against sanity using the percentile dice. So if you've got 90 sanity, then you've got a 90% chance of passing. Every time you meet something really horrible, it can affect your sanity. If you fail the roll, it can affect it more. And the more your maximum sanity is 100 minus your Cthulhu mythos. So if you've got 90 Cthulhu mythos, so you know 9/10 of the truth about the world, you're also, every time you see something scary, you go wibbly and fall over in the corner laughing.
Yeah, you understand just how scary it really is as a character. Yeah, which is nice. Well, it's not nice for the character, but it's nice as a mechanic.
Oh, it's very nice. So you've got most role-play games, you start weak, you start as a level 1 character, and then you get stronger and stronger as you go along. In Call of Cthulhu, it's the opposite way around. Probably when you start, yes, you can get XP and increase some of your skills, but mentally you're probably the strongest your character will ever be.
Yep.
And then you degrade slowly over time, or, if you're Colin... you collapse like a flan in a cupboard.
Really
to
did.
steal a phrase.
Yeah, poor Jeffrey.
Didn't I start partway through your Call of Cthulhu campaign and you'd gone mad in the back of a car?
Oh, I'd already gone almost completely insane by
Yeah.
that point. I was, it was.
Yeah, so we recently played a modern day Call of Cthulhu campaign set in our local town, where we all live.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. In an area where I used to live.
Yeah. In an area I have to drive through on the way home.
Yeah.
Really?
I did at that time, yeah.
Yeah? Did it creep you out afterwards?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Then my work here is done. That's what.
Our other roleplay companion didn't like it much either.
No, I set part of it. There's a sort of very creepy shopping centre, isn't there? Those kind of local shopping centres where you've got a couple rows of shops sort of surrounded by houses.
Yeah.
And I set some of the shenanigans and the occult goings on in that place, and then 6 months later he moved in round the corner and it was his local shops. So sorry James for ruining that for you. He couldn't be with us tonight or any other night.
That man on the bicycle's nodding slowly at that worries me more than it should.
Hang on. Is this his revenge?
You're saying the man on the bicycle is James?
The man on the bicycle is made of wood.
And he's also a lot smaller than James is.
Then why has he been beating
Ted
me?
Moment. That's really close but very small.
Oh, good times, good times.
Yes.
So tell me, what scared you in that campaign then?
Well, I played a character called Jeffrey. Jeffrey Talbot, was it?
Jeffrey Talbot.
Jeffrey
yes.
Talbot, who was an emotionally disturbed person before I even began the campaign, because I've never learned in any sort of games of this where don't start with a character who has some problems, because those problems will escalate quickly and rapidly. As a result, I think I started with 47 on my maximum sanity, the lowest in the entire party, and was already a little bit wibbly wobbly. Part of my backstory, this isn't required when making characters in Call of Cthulhu, but we all got together and we did a brainstorming for our characters, that the kind of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I heartily recommend that if you're planning on playing something that's going to run fairly long term for more than 6 or 7 sessions, say, then actually getting together, discussing characters, discussing how they fit together and what they bring to the group. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
we talked about
it
that
worked.
Mutant as well, where it kind of makes you do a bit of that.
Yeah.
So you made your character.
So I made my character, and part of my backstory is I decided that my father had died, and I had witnessed said event. Now, according to the police and the investigation, it was a sleepwalking suicide.
I suppose an accident caused by a sleepwalk.
That's the one, sleepwalking suicide. What the hell am I on about? Yes, it was an accident due to sleepwalking. But I had witnessed, being a 5-year-old child, that actually what I saw was a turn-of-the-century Romanite gypsy, all dressed in black, holding a bloody red rose, leading my father out into the middle of the road to then be hit by a car, before turning back, looking at me, and muttering something that I couldn't understand. As I got older, digging into the family history, it turned out that all the males in the family had died from accidents and mysterious circumstances over the years, and that there was some kind of possible curse.
Okay.
Obviously, my mum and I had a sister as well, thought this was all a complete load of rubbish, but my character was already paranoid before we already began. At the end of the first session, we were driving back to home. We had inherited a mansion. We'd inherited a mansion. And
in mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, it was all fairly normal, and there were some slightly odd things with it. A couple of locked doors. You know, it's kind of starting the horror. You start it slowly. You don't just go boom straight out of the closet.
Yeah.
So it was all fine until we were driving home for the night. I was driving the car, and then as we pulled up to the house, right there at the gates was the Roman-eyed gypsy woman, just staring at me. And that might not sound scary, but I was in character enough that I did shit a brick.
And we, what was the first thing we used to help build Aaron's bunker?
Yes.
Buried deep within the foundations.
That woman then continued to plague my character for the rest of the adventure, right until Jeffrey's end.
Jeffrey's bloody, gory, sad.
Glass ashtray carrying.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, that was kind of the moment that started your inevitable descent into madness, about a month and a half before everyone else.
Yeah.
So well done.
For those interested, if not, just skip forward about 5 minutes. My character had completely gone insane and decided that, I can't actually remember why, but we were going into a dream world, and my character decided that he was going to inject himself with some of the evil liquid we had discovered. So I went and bought some from a street dealer, using a dirty needle to inject it into myself. Essentially, I was injecting myself with heroin. That's what I was doing. It was bad. We all ended up...
Poor Jeffrey.
Poor Jeffrey.
He lost his job.
Yeah,
He was being investigated by the Department for Health because he was using that said liquid on students.
Weren't you?
I forgot about that. I got the kids to... The kids became infected.
Because they were experimenting on it. I remember sitting the opposite end of the table, we were being discussed that.
Yeah. I was being investigated by the school. I was being investigated by the police. It went bad, and my character snapped and decided he was going to use this liquid and find out what was going on.
It was quite a convoluted plot.
Yes.
Which
might not make any
sense. Bear much explanation.
But in the end, my character decided that the only way to save the world was to kill. The only way to save the world was to kill James, his character. Sorry, James.
That thing just turned and looked at you when you said his name. Carry on.
He was a writer, and it turned out that everything he was writing was going to come true, and he was going to cause the end of the world. So I decided that the only way to spare the world was to kill him. So picking up a heavy glass ashtray...
In the dream world.
Yes. I battered my way through the dream people in a bloody spectacular fashion, as you can imagine, before attempting to run down the stairs to catch up to James's character. I then had to make a test to see whether or not I could get down the stairs because I was doing it in a hurry, and this had to...
That was so you were trying to attack him.
I was trying to attack him. I spectacularly failed.
Yes.
I think I rolled a 1 out of a possible 100 chance.
You rolled 00, which is 100%, because you need to roll equal to or under the target number in Cthulhu, and you rolled 100, which is a critical failure.
Yes, and just as it sounded, I went tumbling down the stairs, resulting in a broken neck.
Yes.
And that was the end of Jeffrey.
Yeah. I'd say James's character, I did back to you the entire time. It was basically your character's corpse just plummeted next to
Yeah,
you.
he had absolutely no idea until my body just kind of rolled at his feet.
Past it.
Yeah.
Like that bit in Saints Row where you try and claim insurance. And you had to get really badly battered and it'd bounce around.
Yeah.
They do that in Skate as well. Where you had a mode where you could...
Thrasher mode, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Is that Thrasher Skate and Destroy?
No, that was a separate game.
That's a separate game? Oh,
Yeah.
God. It's the 90s, Colin. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Early 2000s. Yes, so genuinely you were scared by the repeating woman who was haunting your family?
Oh, I was really unsettled by the entire experience, and I genuinely believe that killing James's character was the right thing to do. And
In real life as well as in the game?
yeah. Because for those who've role-played before, or those thinking about role-playing, inter-party conflicts should be avoided.
As discussed
as
last
discussed,
week, when you were the catalyst for the inter-party conflicts, but then, there's a trend here.
Well, you did have, I assume you had the feeling you were approaching the end game at that point.
Yeah, it did feel like that.
And yes, I really did think it was the right thing to do, and I don't think anything, even if it hadn't been the end kind of game, it was the right thing to do as far as I was concerned.
So you got into the feel of it, got into the mood of it? And,
yes.
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu, very much fun to play. It's very brutal. Combat is extremely brutal, even more than I'd say mutant.
Yeah, the most important skill that you have is your investigation skill.
Yes.
Because hopefully those familiar with Lovecraft fiction, and if you're not familiar with Lovecraft fiction, sort your life out and go and read some, because it's very, very good. But... in that, yes, a lot of his characters are sort of academics. They're unpicking puzzles. They're trying to find out about things that man was not supposed to know about.
Yes.
If you end up kicking the door in and trying to shoot stuff, you'll just die horribly quite often. It's things that are beyond this realm you can't deal with.
It's one of those surprisingly realistic combat systems of something that is hopefully massively fantastical.
Yeah. So when you were saying before last week,
when we talked about Conspiracy X.
We talked about Conspiracy X and then D20 Modern.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you shoot someone with a gun in Call of Cthulhu, they're probably going to die from it.
I killed the most people, as I recall.
In the game?
In the game, yes.
Was it just it wasn't just the approach to James, because you murdered a lot of people.
No, but
there was a clustered crowd who were looking for James to be anointed as their king.
Yes.
Hence why you thought that he needed killing. And they were so transfixed by what was going on that you just murdered them all. But they didn't even fight back, Colin. You bad Jeffrey.
But before that, we took down a drug lord and his bodyguards, and I killed them all. As I recall, I killed 6 people that day and blew all their brains out.
Yeah, and I was quite willing as DM for you to try that, because again, consequences in roleplay games. You need to let the players try things and then go with what happens. But your character wasn't even good at shooting.
No,
you just were very spectacularly
with dice rolls.
Managed to find a gun and murdered everyone.
But it completely destroyed my sanity. But yes, I picked up a gun, I fired a bullet, that bullet hit a person, that person fell over and was dead.
Yeah.
But they could have done exactly the same back to us.
Yes.
Yeah. Luckily, I rolled some really good dice, and I say luckily, it was a Call of Cthulhu game, so there is no happy ending. But I rolled some good dice, otherwise we probably would have all died.
Aaron, what are your experiences of Call of Cthulhu?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it as a system because it was more roleplay than it was combat, which, again, I've enjoyed more. So you need a decent storyteller, I've found, for it to work. So the fact that you write disgusting horror stories has helped greatly for it.
Oh, thank you.
I will never look at glowing blue mushrooms the same again. Like I ever did first, after having pulled out somebody's eye.
Oh yeah, it got a bit grotesque at various points.
I was somebody.
You pulled one of the strands out my fingernails as well.
Yes,
one of the blue strands.
Because this isn't going to make any sense to anybody. The liquid was turning into some kind of strange blue fungal growth that was filling people up in a strandy,
and I'd gone
honeycombing kind of fashion.
Visit my brother in hospital, who was one of the other players who dropped out for various reasons. I don't really know why, but
I incorporated into the plot and carried on playing.
I was praised brother come to investigate, check on him. He was in a mental hospital in an actual hospital bed because he was so seriously sick, and he was calling them, screaming to get something out of his eye, which had this blue thing. And I had to pull out, and then Brian described it in great detail. As I
Yes,
pulled the strand from his eye. And
the game is as horrific as Mutant that we.
Yeah.
Well, it's as horrific.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's my fault.
As horrific as the storyteller allows it to be, but it gives you the tools to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I felt so disgusted as you were describing that bit that my characters, like I came entering my brother, so I should probably stop. And then inside myself, I was going, please stop, I don't Brian describe anymore, please stop, please stop, please stop.
Yes, it was actually, we were all, the rest of us weren't even there, but just listening, it was unpleasant and more unnerving than any Dungeons and Dragons scene where we've shot someone with an arrow.
I mean, it lends itself to that kind of description. And if you sit down with your players and say, we're going to play a horror game, then as far as I'm concerned, they've made that bargain. They know what they're in for. And it's their fair game for grossing them out if that's where you want to go.
Yep.
I also tried some more subtle horror, some more psychological things
Roman
in there, which Cthulhu works is more geared towards, possibly. It's a very odd game, because it's the kind of game where quite often you do it in video games, have the same sort of conceit. You'll investigate, you'll find out, you'll prepare, and then you'll work out what you need to take on the big bad guy.
Yeah.
So you'll play something like Dark Souls, and you'll work out, okay, so the boss is on fire, so I'm not going to use my fire weapon.
Yeah.
I'm going to...
Oh, it's a demon, I'll use a bleeding weapon.
Yeah, and you start to work things like that out. Generally in Cthulhu, the more knowledge you've got, the less you want to deal with the thing.
Yeah.
Ignorance can be bliss, and also the death of your character.
I had a lot of Cthulhu mythos. I think I had about 9 or 10 by the end of that game, Cthulhu mythos, and... The problem is I should have known how to deal with everything, but I was such a gibbering wreck that I couldn't actually explain to anybody what was going on.
You couldn't pass a sanity check in order to pass that knowledge on.
Yeah,
you would realise what it was and then collapse weeping on the floor.
I think I did that. By the end, I was doing that almost every dice roll, going, I look over there to my left. Oh, I collapse on the floor, gibbering in the corner. Oh, I've learned something new. I just can't tell anyone.
Yes, we were travelling across in the Dreamland across a expanse of water, and something came out, and you went blah, 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 and fell in the water.
Oh, I know what that is. I'm drowning now.
Not bad, it's going to eat you.
Yeah.
It didn't eat you though. You managed to get him out.
Yeah, it's lost all the stuff that probably would have helped towards the end.
You did. You lost.
I was carrying it all.
A sword of some form. I can't remember.
Oh, that bloody sword. Sorry, listeners, because you have no idea what we're talking about, but I killed a man with that sword.
You killed a man with everything. Every one of your
anecdotes.
anecdotes.
My character really uncomfortable as a upper middle class lawyer, just sort of hanging around with this drug addicted murderer.
That's really what it boiled down to. Yeah. This poor chemistry teacher who just completely lost the plot and was murdering everyone, going, "No, it's fine. We have to."
I mean, I've only ever run 2 campaigns of Call of Cthulhu, even though I've owned my copy of the rulebook for about 13 years. It took me a long time to convince anyone to play it with me, because I don't think just the people I was playing with at the time weren't that interested.
Well, it's like we've had with Mutant or Pathfinder or anything. You can have weeks where people have possibly had a bad week and are bit down or whatever, so you can go, okay, well, we'll do something a bit more light-hearted this week. We'll make the combat a bit more fantastical, or we'll discover scantily clad women on a oasis of bananas. I don't know. You know what I mean? Ridiculous and silly. That
there was that. Sorry, you've just reminded me. Completely tangential to that. When we played Rise of the Rune Lords, we found the succubus women and their magical sex toys, and asked our DM at the time, why on earth did you put that in? And he was adamant that it was actually in the book.
I don't think it was. I think he was lying. That was James again. Is that James getting...
Don't say his name. The thing is getting close.
Yeah, it's clapping slowly as well, which is... I don't like it. Yeah. back to what I was saying.
Yeah, back to what we were saying. Have we checked
Yeah.
the Twitter account? I've not got any signal down here.
I didn't even bring my phone.
He's conned us. How are we supposed to know if we've got 500 followers? Are we supposed to trust it?
Maybe it claps every time we get a Twitter follower.
Ah.
Now I've got It's a Wonderful Life in my head. Every time a wooden puppet claps, an angel gets his wings.
Your podcast gets a follower.
Welcome to the Christmas special.
Yes. Anyway, where was I going?
Yeah, we were talking about. Yeah, I was saying how some weeks you need a bit more of a light-hearted heart sometimes. You
Yeah, Cthulhu's quite dark.
Yeah, you can't get away from
Cthulhu's-
that. You can't be light-hearted.
You're not heroes.
No, you're everyday.
You're not Bjorn, the mighty Viking warrior, going to rid the land of the evil giants plaguing.
Until he learns how to
Astaroth.
pronounce his own name.
Well, yeah. Well, that's how he's written it. And he's a Viking, so he can't spell. It's fine. It's your Jeffrey, the local chemistry teacher, who's wound up in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
That's Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. So it was. It was interesting. I really enjoyed playing Call of Cthulhu. I was saying that I've only ever played the 2 campaigns, one of which was Cthulhu by Gaslight, which is Victorian London Cthulhu, and that's where the sword came from, because it was a callback. 2 of my players had played in that previous campaign, and I mean the campaign kind of fizzled out and died. For various reasons, so I kind of bought some bits back for them, and there was a link back to things that had happened, and at various points you were investigating things that they'd done, but neither of them realised it, which was quite fun. It was quite enjoyable. So that's the kind of thing you can do with any kind of roleplay game, is to bring those in. I mean, I would happily play lots more Cthulhu. It's been out for 35 years.
Really?
It's very early 80s. It is the big horror roleplay game. Possibly has something to do with the resurgence of Cthulhu. Lovecraft's critical reputation, because he wasn't particularly well known, or as well known as he is now. 30 years ago, you couldn't buy a Cthulhu plush doll like you can these days.
No,
that sort of
He
thing.
was a bit Van Gogh, in a sense of he had to die before.
Well, he died. He died in the 30s. He was barely known in.
He was a Van Gogh. He died, and then he started taking off.
I do like some of the things he did, where he was submitting to some of the magazines of the day, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, we like your story, but we need this change, we need that change," and you go, "Okay," and he'd wait 3 months and he'd send it back exactly how it was, because it was like, it's my art, I'm not changing it. I quite like that. The problem with Cthulhu at the moment, Call of Cthulhu, is that I'm desperately that for the 7th edition to come out.
Yes.
We actually used the 7th edition quick start rules for this that particular campaign, which we started 2 years ago, almost to the day.
Are they still not out yet?
No, they're still not out. Now there's hundreds, if not maybe thousands, of source books, add-ons, campaigns, adventures, investigations available for the game. But I just want Chaosium to release the new edition of rules. It was kickstarted over 2 years ago, but the company sort of changed hands recently, the last sort of 6 months. They're still fulfilling. I almost bought, because it is available, the Horror on the Orient Express, so 1920s, Murder on the Orient Express. They do a giant box that comes with you get your train tickets, you find bits of a puzzle that you have to put together, and it gives you the bits of the puzzle.
Why have you not bought this?
Because it's £100, and then it's £60 shipping from America. And I don't have 7th edition to pair it with.
If somebody's feeling generous, they could send it to us.
If we ever.
Incredibly generous, and we'll kiss your boots at that point.
Yeah, we'll let you run at Colin wearing whatever you like, or nothing at all. So I've been very tempted. I've got to the stage of putting it in the cart and clicking checkout, and then I've been one mouse click away about 3 times in the last couple of years. I think I'm going to treat myself the moment the 7th edition comes out.
I think you should treat us all too.
I think you lot should buy it for me for my birthday, which is today.
You're talking
in the future.
To students, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so money has no value to you because you get it for free.
Well,
Well, in that case, we'll download off the internet for nothing, because that's what we want to do.
The angry wooden puppet is nodding sagely at my words.
disclaimer: we do not download anything illegally from the internet.
But you wouldn't want to do that anyway because the thrill for me was the tactile.
Yeah,
the idea
It's a
of-
giant heavy box full of stuff and handouts and
The idea of sitting there actually having to do a puzzle is just amazing.
yeah. I mean, I do like a nice handout.
Oh yes.
We keep threatening to go get some mystery tins for Mutant and take the labels off and just kind of sit and eat the dinner with a can. But on my Friday nights, I like to eat Burger King.
Yeah.
Other fast food is available and often consumed.
To be honest with you, you might end up with dog food, and that probably is about as healthy as the Burger King is.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Similar taste and texture. I don't know. This is not going anywhere. Shush, Brian. So I mean that's RPGs. I personally, I've never played in a straight horror game as a player in an RPG, so I've not got a lot to pin on that. A lot to lot to draw from only as a DM. I did find it fairly sinister. I did feel a bit creeped out at various points. After the game at 2 o'clock in the morning, suddenly, getting dropped off at home and having to go up the stairs in the dark kind of thing.
It had this undercurrent. It's like when you're playing it, your character's a bit nervous, but you're like, no, it's fine because I know it's fake kind of thing. Then afterwards, it kind of settles in. And
you get home and you have
on
to walk up the stairs and you're by yourself and you're thinking about what happened. And
and you drive past the field that's pitch black in the middle of it, and you start to wonder whether there's a woman with a rose standing just offside.
Don't.
And panicking because there's large ditches either side of the road.
Yeah.
There was a lot. There was a lot of that afterwards. Like it really played on.
I'd definitely say for anyone interested in playing a horror game, first of all, you need the right type of group. We have tried before with horror games, and we haven't had quite the right mix of people to pull it off. And the second thing, they are a hell of a lot of fun, and I would gladly play Cthulhu again, but it's not something you want to continuously run because it is so dark, so bleak.
A campaign lasts about 4 months, which for us is quite short. We do tend to go for something longer.
Long term, I wouldn't have wanted to play it for much longer than that. And it's been a couple of years, and although I'd like to play it again, I'm only just getting to the stage where I'm going, oh yes.
I've reached that stage. I'm like, I want to play some more.
A horror game, yes, but it's been a couple of years because you just can't play that type of stuff all the time because...
Yeah, because it's not like a horror movie or something where you watch the movie, it scares you while you're watching it, maybe for the night afterwards, and a couple of days later you're fine. And you enjoy the adrenaline or whatever that gets through it with this because it's a kind of undercurrent of dread that runs through the games.
Yeah.
If it's been written well, round of applause for Brian for writing it quite well. This undercurrent of dread that plays through it. It's like if you've got a bad week, it just makes everything worse.
I will confess that not all of it, bits of it were taken conceptually from Tatters of the King, which is one of the source books. But I very quickly realised I don't think we role play in quite the same way that a traditional game of Call of Cthulhu might work. I think we still go a little bit more immersive than maybe they would go.
Well, they've got
So I changed it, and I ended up I bought the source book, read it, and then did something completely different that touched on the same themes. And then I used one chapter right at the end, which is when you were running through the palaces in the dream world.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, I've spoiled that, haven't I?
Well, it depends. I mean, like you said, there's loads and loads of source books for it. People.
Yeah.
It doesn't really spoil a lot. Yeah, because that's fine.
Yeah, definitely give it a go if you can, people.
Yeah. Find your friend who likes writing or talking in the most disturbing way possible, and
Yeah, or just sort of go out late at night and ringing a solitary lonely bell and see who you can attract. Clang, clang.
The puppet's nodding again. Don't do that, listeners.
I haven't actually got a bell, and the bell was ringing. Some convincing clanging, obviously.
The rest of this audio file was found corrupted. An audio engineer has been assigned to reassemble what they can in the hopes of finding the whereabouts of the critical twits. This will be released to the public Tuesday the 3rd of November.